the Justice Department special counsel, Jack Smith, has been building on procedural wins and recruiting this new star witness to testify against defendant Trump at that trial, which is coming up in March. And so right now, I'm going to begin walking you through a lot of things that have just recently changed. Now, Smith has invoked a gag order that he partially won to try to corner Donald Trump further. And in a new filing, Smith urges the federal judge there to actually tighten this gag order, which was going to be paused on appeal, and mentions the possibility or threat of sending defendant Trump to jail before he's convicted, before any trial, if he basically breaks the gag order and rules enough to interfere with witnesses. Now, remember, this move comes as the other prosecutor for coup crimes, D.A. Willis in Georgia, has scored 3 confessions by Trump aides in about 8 days, each of them vowing to testify. Now, these are each separate cases. Both prosecutors are running their own strategy, and they have their own timelines. But the progress in Georgia is putting a lot more heat on these defendants, and that may help Jack Smith corner Donald Trump. And remember, Jack Smith has the first criminal trial of Donald Trump. So if convicted there and if it was upheld on appeal, that could send Donald Trump to prison, potentially, hypothetically, before there is an election. Now, I say potentially. He is, as a defendant, Donald Trump, presumed legally innocent there. But now look at Georgia, where those confessions put this heat on. You have White House veteran Mark Meadows. And I want you to remember this chart right here, because we're going to come back to it and add to it in this special report, because Meadows is seeing these former colleagues that you see up on the upper right, convicted, 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 and he's seeing them vow to testify against Trump and him, because Meadows is a co-defendant there. Meanwhile, and this is important, I'm going to say this very clearly and slowly. Meanwhile, as Meadows worries about that, which could land Mark Meadows in a Georgia prison, note that Meadows is vowing to testify against Trump back over in D.C. with that big ABC report that Meadows is fully cooperating with the coup probe run by Jack Smith in Washington. So, heat on Meadows in Georgia. Heat from Meadows on Trump in D.C. And that is the high-stakes road to Donald Trump's response, because he's been berating his former chief of staff as weak for potentially cutting any kind of deal. Now, as a PR move, I could tell you that kind of attack from Donald Trump may sound typical or even tired or washed at this point. You've heard it all before. But I'm not talking about PR. In court, where these things are going to be resolved, well, Jack Smith is using it. And that's something he singles out. In the filing I mentioned, Smith talking about Trump's social media post targeting a known witness to influence and intimidate him. Meadows is that witness. And while you are allowed to criticize people in politics and say all kinds of words, Smith is making the case that Donald Trump is on the road to potentially committing another crime, witness intimidation, violating the gag order. And if this were, I can tell you, a random case about a street gang or the mafia, a judge could easily jail someone before trial just for messing with witnesses, just for doing what I just showed you Trump is doing. Now, this judge paused that original gag order to give Donald Trump the right to appeal it. But with the Meadows clash, prosecutors are now going further in Smith's office, and they're even pointing to a specific law that allows you to have detention, to jail a defendant for this kind of thing. In plain English, judges can let some defendants roam free before trial with conditions. But if you break those conditions, then yes, you may find that the judge will mandate your detention. That is, you go to jail, and then you have to prepare for your trial behind bars. If that sounds like a more serious punishment or sanction than defendant Trump has faced in a while, well, that's because it is. So, where do we go from here? Well, I can tell you we're going to a place where Donald Trump's odds of being convicted are much higher. As a criminal defendant, Donald Trump is facing more heat now. He's operating as if the courts will not try to make a new precedent and jail him before trial. Jail him not for a coup crime or an election crime or a classified documents crime, but jail him just for breaking trial rules. Now, Trump has broken the spirit of at least the gag order rules in Washington. Jack Smith's walked through that evidence, if not worse. And Trump flatly broke a different civil gag order in the New York case, which is why he had to take the stand and face that grilling under oath there this week and also pay a fine. more violations could theoretically be punished by sending him to jail temporarily before trial. Trump is clearly betting no judge wants to make a new precedent of jailing an ex-president before he's even convicted. But note, that is the same kind of bet he made for assuming the feds would not really go after those boxes and boxes of allegedly stolen documents from Mar-a-Lago. And the feds did. It's also similar to the bet Donald Trump made that prosecutors would not indict an ex-president. They'd never done that before in American history, and that has now happened to him by 3 prosecutors across 4 cases, leading to the mounting heat you see across the entire nation, from New York, where Trump's on trial in civil court now and awaiting a criminal trial, in Washington, where Jack Smith is prosecuting Trump in that other federal March criminal coup trial, and down to Atlanta, where those RICO cases have led to those 3 guilty pleas by his lawyers who are flipping, and then down in Florida, the Espionage Act case. Now, these prosecutors act independently. They are supposed to, and they and their offices have all emphasized that they're doing that. In other words, they don't collaborate on, for example, how to squeeze people or how to get cooperating witnesses in other jurisdictions. They might squeeze and they might pressure, but they only do that in their own case. That's how it's supposed to be. The only level of sort of any coordination you might see is that, and this is required, that sometimes they discuss schedules, because you cannot legally ask someone to be in 2 places at the same time, and people have a right to be at their trial. But other than scheduling, you're not seeing direct coordination. However, what is key, and I don't think everyone has actually completely noticed this yet, and boy, we've been busy with a lot of different things, but the core of the report I want to share with you tonight is what I'm about to walk through with you, a breakdown of how the breakthroughs in Georgia are strengthening Jack Smith's hand. I'm going to show you this legal heat because the pressure across the cases makes it more likely that the main defendant here, Donald Trump, could be convicted on a lot of evidence. Now, the most convictions are now coming right out of Georgia. If you take the 7 Trump figures on your screen, they were all hit with RICO charges for trying to steal the election, plus other crimes. Now, over just the past 8 days here as we end the week, we've updated this chart in a major way. 3 of them have pled guilty. So the convicted people in Georgia, basically that upper top right row there, those now convicted Trump lawyers have confessed and vowed to testify against Trump and those other co-defendants that you see on the screen. But now consider the overlap in the open federal case. 2 of those Georgia convicts I just showed you, and 3 of those defendants are also on the hook in the federal coup case against Trump. That's Jack Smith's case that you see on your screen. So they are cited as unindicted co-conspirators. You can see co-conspirators stamped on Giuliani and Eastman. And that term has been thrown around a lot. What that means in plain English is the DOJ didn't charge them yet, but it could. So Powell, Chesebro, Giuliani, Eastman, Clark, plus I should mention for thoroughness, the 6th co-conspirator in the lower right who remains anonymous. So Jack Smith's case is about the entire coup plot. The Georgia case is just about the parts of the coup plot that went down in Georgia. If you have the whole country and Washington and all those contested states and all the different things Donald Trump was doing, Georgia, of course, is just this Georgia part. But now that people are confessing and flipping in that Georgia part, let me tell you something. What happens in Georgia may not stay in Georgia. And this is sort of the conclusion of the report we want to show you based on our new legal analysis right out from, well, what we've been doing as a team here on The Beat. I'm going to show it to you. Both cases together here. This is where you see a defendant like Trump is in a worse spot than a few weeks ago. Now, that's a lot on your screen, and the first thing you got to know is when you have that many stamps on your screen, it's really bad for the top defendant, who you see in the upper left, double indicted Trump. But let me walk you through this. This is way worse than where Trump was just about 2 weeks ago, because the top witness of all, Trump White House veteran Mark Meadows, is now reportedly cooperating with Jack Smith. So if you just go to the right of Trump, he is indicted in Georgia and a Jack Smith DOJ witness. So he faces, though, the heat from the other witnesses who have already now publicly vowed to testify against Meadows in Georgia. Those witnesses are facing the pressure to match whatever they swear under oath in Georgia with what they say about Meadows and Trump in the federal case. Take Powell and Chesebro and Ellis. They could also eye new immunity deals for federal exposure, which would be what the DOJ reportedly granted Meadows. And then there are the defendants and unindicted co-conspirators who are still holding out and battling prosecutors in both jurisdictions. So I'm leaving this on the screen for a long time on purpose because I want to now draw your attention to those people, Giuliani, Eastman, and Clark. You see, they have the DOJ co-conspirator label. They have that exposure. They are indicted in Georgia. But unlike those other three, they're holding out. What are they holding out for? So I'm going to leave this on the screen while I make a final point here. When you take this together, you have an interaction between these two cases. That is not some grand strategy. Indeed, Jack Smith had no idea that Georgia would ultimately move or not. But Jack Smith's case, which again is the first and most perilous place where Donald Trump will go on trial soon, March, and potentially face a conviction that carries prison time. And Jack Smith's case has been strengthened by all of the stamps you see on your screen. He didn't know these people would plea, and some of them might be more or less useful to him. He's obviously very interested in Mr. Meadows. But where we are, which is very different than a couple weeks ago, is seeing these cases collide in a way that is hugely helpful to the prosecutor who's first up. And that prosecutor is Jack Smith.